You have been told that life will reward your intentions. It will not. Life does not listen to your wishes. It listens only to your strength. It does not care how pure your motives are, how sincere your hopes may be, or how badly you desire peace. It will test you without warning, and it will watch, silently, as you respond. There will be mornings when your spirit feels heavy for reasons you cannot explain. There will be nights when doubt sits beside you like an uninvited guest, whispering that you are not enough, but against the weakness within yourself. Understand this clearly. Nothing outside you has the power to destroy your mind unless you permit it. Events are indifferent, loss is indifferent, pain is indifferent. It is your judgment that gives them weight. It is your surrender that gives them victory. Most people spend their lives running from discomfort. They seek distraction, they seek escape, they seek anything that allows them to avoid facing themselves. But avoidance does not erase weakness. It feeds it, it nurtures it, it allows it to grow in silence until the day hardship arrives, and they find themselves unprepared. You must become different. You must become the one who does not run, the one who does not beg for an easier path, the one who stands firm when everything within him demands retreat, because the moment you stop expecting life to be gentle is the moment you become someone life cannot break. Life does not break. The strong it reveals, the weak places they refuse to confront. This is a truth many spend their entire lives trying to escape, yet it waits patiently for every person, regardless of their status, their intelligence, or their ambitions. You may believe you are strong because you have not yet fallen, because you have not yet been tested beyond your comfort, because your days have passed without disruption. But the absence of hardship is not proof of strength. It is only proof that you have not yet been asked to prove it. Strength is not measured in moments of ease. Anyone can appear calm when nothing threatens them. Anyone can appear confident when nothing challenges their identity. Anyone can appear unbreakable when life remains predictable and obedient. But life is not loyal to your comfort. It changes without your consent. It removes what you depend on. It places obstacles in the path that you did not choose and did not deserve. And in those moments, something deeper than your words begins to speak. When pressure arrives, it does not create weakness. It exposes it. You begin to see the hesitation you once ignored, the fear you buried beneath distraction, the doubts you silenced with temporary victories. You see the parts of yourself that you avoided when you had the luxury to look away. And this realization can feel like betrayal, as if life itself has turned against you. But life has not betrayed you. It has revealed you to yourself. There is a quiet danger in believing you are stronger than you truly are. It is a comforting illusion, and like all illusions, it survives only in the absence of reality. A man may believe he is patient until he is insulted. He may believe he is disciplined until he is tempted. He may believe he is fearless until he stands before something that can truly take from him what he values most. It is in these moments that truth replaces imagination. Many people resent these moments. They curse the difficulty. They blame the circumstance. They search for someone or something to hold responsible for the discomfort they feel. They say the world is unfair. They say life is cruel. But what they truly resent is not the hardship itself. They resent what it shows them, because hardship holds a mirror that cannot lie. It shows you whether your confidence was real or rehearsed. It shows you whether your discipline was a habit or a performance. It shows you whether your calm was strength or simply the absence of disturbance. And once you see these things, you cannot unsee them. Some will turn away from this mirror. They will distract themselves. They will pretend they did not see the truth. They will return to comfort as quickly as possible, hoping to rebuild the illusion they once lived inside. But the illusion never feels the same once it has been broken. Something inside them knows. Something inside them remembers. Others will stand still. They will feel the discomfort fully. They will feel the weight of their own limitations. They will feel the humiliation of realizing they are not yet who they believe themselves to be. And though this feeling is heavy, though it wounds their pride, they will not run from it. They will study it. Because within that discomfort is the beginning of transformation. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot overcome what you refuse to see. Weakness does not disappear through avoidance. It waits. It hides. It grows in silence. And it chooses its moment carefully, revealing itself when the stakes are highest. This is why life's hardest moments are also its most honest. They strip away the unnecessary. They remove the distractions. They force you into direct confrontation with yourself. No excuses remain. No pretending survives. Only truth remains. You begin to notice how quickly your mind searches for escape, how easily it tries to justify surrender, how convincingly it whispers that you are tired, that you have done enough, that you deserve rest. And in those whispers, you begin to understand that your greatest obstacle has never been the world. It has always been the part of you that seeks comfort over growth. This realization is not meant to break you. It is meant to awaken you. Because once you see your weakness clearly, it loses its invisibility. It loses its control over you. It becomes something you can face directly, something you can challenge, something you can begin to change. But this process is not quick. It does not happen in a single moment of courage. It happens in quiet decisions, repeated daily, often without recognition. It happens when you choose discipline while no one is watching. It happens when you remain calm while everything inside you urges reaction. It happens when you continue forward without certainty, without reassurance, without knowing when relief will come. There will be moments when you question whether the effort is worth it. Moments when the old version of yourself calls you back. It will remind you how easy it was to avoid responsibility, how easy it was to blame circumstances, how easy it was to remain unchanged. And you will feel the temptation to return, because growth is uncomfortable. Awareness is uncomfortable. Truth is uncomfortable, but comfort has a cost. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you reinforce the very weakness that hardship revealed to you. Every time you avoid the difficult path, you teach your mind that retreat is acceptable. And your mind learns quickly. It learns to surrender faster each time. It learns to doubt itself more deeply each time, until one day, surrender becomes your instinct. This is how fragile minds are formed. Not through a single failure, but through repeated avoidance. Not through a lack of potential, but through a lack of confrontation. And yet, the opposite is also true. Every time you face what you once avoided, you weaken the hold that fear has over you. Every time you endure discomfort without escape, you expand the boundaries of your strength. Every time you remain standing when surrender would be easier, you become someone new. Not all at once, not completely. But, undeniably, you begin to trust yourself in a way you never did before. Not because life has become easier, but because you have proven that you can endure what is difficult. You no longer depend on circumstances to feel strong. You carry that strength within you. And when the next hardship arrives, as it always does, you do not greet it with the same fear. You recognize it. You understand its purpose. You know it has come not to destroy you, but to reveal you again. Because strength is not a permanent state. It is a practice. It is something that must be chosen repeatedly, especially when it is inconvenient, especially when it is painful, especially when no one else sees your effort. There is no final moment where you become immune to struggle. There is only the ongoing decision to face yourself honestly, to see clearly, to refuse escape, to accept responsibility, to stand without pretending. And in that process, you begin to understand that life was never your enemy. It was your teacher. Comfort is the silent architect of a fragile mind. Few understand this truth because comfort is not loud. It does not announce itself with warning bells or dramatic gestures. It arrives quietly, softly, like a warm shadow settling over the edge of your life. At first, it feels harmless, even necessary. You tell yourself that rest is deserved, that ease is natural, that peace is something to be sought after. And for a while, it feels that way. But the danger of comfort is not in its presence, but in its subtlety, in how it reshapes your mind without your awareness. It teaches you that struggle is optional, that persistence is negotiable, that resistance is unnecessary. And slowly, imperceptibly, it builds a prison around your spirit. The mind does not weaken in moments of hardship. It weakens in moments of indulgence. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you add another brick to this invisible cage. The first time you avoid a difficult conversation, it seems trivial. The first time you postpone a challenge, it seems harmless. The first time you allow distraction to replace discipline, it feels convenient. Yet each of these small acts carries weight. Each one teaches your mind to prefer the easy path, to retreat from friction, to avoid the discomfort that growth requires. And the accumulation of these small decisions is what forms the foundation of weakness. Even in those who consider themselves strong, comfort does not announce its danger with clarity. It wraps itself in virtue, in necessity, in justification. It tells you that you have earned rest, that you are entitled to ease, that the world must yield to your desires. And you believe it. You adopt its quiet voice as your own, and it begins to shape your thoughts, your habits, your expectations. Your ambitions shrink without a fight, not because they are impossible, but because you have allowed them to be replaced with convenience. Your resilience dulls, not because life has tested you, but because you have trained yourself to avoid the test. Your courage fades, not because danger is constant, but because you have never been required to stand firm. This is the insidious power of comfort. It convinces you that weakness is acceptable, that avoidance is justified, that surrender is natural, and when life finally imposes its challenges, as it always does, you are unprepared. You discover not that the world is harsh, but that your mind has been soft. You discover not that suffering is overwhelming, but that your own habits have eroded your ability to endure. You discover not that pain is unfair, but that you have been surrendering to small comforts for so long that you no longer recognize your own strength. Most people never see this process. They live their lives chasing the illusion of security, seeking the gentle, the predictable, the familiar. They rearrange their days to avoid friction, to maintain ease, to feel comfortable. And because comfort is subtle, they do not notice the cost. They do not notice that every concession chips away at their resilience. They do not notice that every indulgence slowly trains the mind to shrink from difficulty. And they are shocked when adversity arrives, unannounced, uncompromising, and unmoved by their desire for gentleness. The path to an unbreakable mind does not lie in comfort. It lies in the willingness to embrace challenge, to face discomfort, to endure what the mind would rather avoid. It lies in the acceptance that ease is not a goal, but a temporary byproduct of mastery. True strength is forged in friction, tested in pressure, and refined in moments of hardship. Comfort, while appealing, is an enemy in disguise because it teaches the mind that these necessary trials are optional, that they can be postponed, that they can be avoided without consequence. Consider how often you allow comfort to dictate your actions. You postpone difficult conversations because they are awkward. You avoid exercise or discipline because it is inconvenient. You choose distraction over reflection because it is easy. You cling to familiar routines because change requires discomfort. And in each of these choices, you surrender a small measure of your potential. You trade strength for temporary ease. You trade growth for immediate satisfaction. You trade resilience for the illusion of peace. This pattern is not obvious at first. Its effects are cumulative. A mind that has been trained to avoid friction becomes brittle when friction is unavoidable. A body that has been shielded from challenge becomes weak when challenge arrives. A spirit that has sought comfort above all else becomes fragile when life refuses to yield. The world does not need to be cruel to expose this fragility. It only needs to be indifferent, and the indifferent world will always expose it. Yet, there is a way to resist this subtle erosion. The path is not glamorous, nor is it easy. It requires vigilance. It requires awareness. It requires the deliberate choice to face what is uncomfortable, to challenge what is familiar, to embrace what is difficult. It requires recognizing that every small surrender to comfort is a training in weakness, and every small act of resistance is a training in strength. It requires understanding that true freedom is not found in ease, but in mastery over oneself. To do this, you must examine your daily choices. You must observe where comfort dictates your actions and confront it. You must question why you seek convenience over effort, why you prioritize ease over growth, why you allow avoidance to feel justified, and in doing so, you reclaim control over your own mind. You reclaim the space where resilience is formed, where courage is nurtured, where unbreakable strength can emerge. You begin to see that the moments you once believed to be harmless indulgence are, in fact, the moments that determine your capacity to endure the inevitable trials of life. Comfort is not a force that strikes suddenly. It is a constant presence, shaping thought, bending habits, softening resolve. To ignore it is to invite weakness. To acknowledge it is to begin the work of fortifying your mind. Every moment of embracing challenge without complaint is a small but irreversible step toward unbreakable strength. And when these small steps accumulate, they create a mind that no circumstance can shatter, a spirit that no setback can bend, a character that no hardship can redefine without consent. The danger of comfort is invisible, because it is woven into the fabric of ordinary life. It does not arrive with fanfare, nor does it demand immediate recognition. It simply exists, quietly, waiting for the mind to accept it, and slowly guiding thought, habit, and behavior toward fragility. Those who are unaware are ensnared by it. Those who resist it forge themselves into something far stronger than mere circumstance could ever require. And in that forging, they discover that the mind, once hardened by conscious effort, becomes unbreakable not because life is gentle, but because life's challenges have been met with deliberate courage and unyielding will. Comfort can never teach you what hardship can. Ease cannot cultivate enduring convenience, cannot create courage. Only the moments in which the mind confronts difficulty, embraces discomfort, and perseveres despite pain can build strength that endures. To seek only comfort is to deny oneself the very trials that define resilience. To surrender to ease is to surrender the opportunity to discover the limits of one's own potential, and to realize that those limits are far beyond what the mind once believed possible. And so, the choice is always before you, to yield to comfort, to accept its temporary pleasures while slowly softening your mind, or to face difficulty, to endure what is unpleasant, and to grow into a strength that is real, lasting, and unassailable. Comfort is the silent architect, shaping the mind without notice. And you are the only one who can refuse its design and choose instead the architecture of endurance, resilience, and unbreakable will. Pain is not an enemy, but a teacher that strips away illusion. Yet, from the beginning, you were taught to see it differently. You were taught to fear it, to avoid it, to resent its presence as though it were a punishment meant only for you. You were taught to believe that pain was a sign that something had gone wrong, that it was an interruption of the life you deserved. And because of this, you spent much of your time running from it, negotiating with it, begging it to leave before it had finished its lesson. But pain does not arrive without purpose. It arrives with clarity. It arrives to show you what comfort tried to hide. When pain enters your life, it removes the distractions you once relied on. The noise fades. The illusions weaken. The things you believed were permanent begin to reveal their fragility. You begin to see how much of your confidence was built on circumstances that could change without your consent. You begin to see how much of your identity depended on things outside your control. And in that moment, something inside you begins to shift. Pain has a way of making things honest. It shows you the people who were only present when your life was easy. It shows you the thoughts you once entertained, without question, the assumptions you made about yourself, about the world, about your future. And as these illusions fall away, you are left standing in a reality you did not choose, but one you cannot deny. This is why pain feels so heavy, not because it destroys you, but because it reveals you. It reveals your attachments. It reveals your fears. It reveals the parts of your mind that depended on certainty, on comfort, on control. And when those things disappear, you are forced to confront what remains. Many people see this moment as the end of their strength. They believe pain has defeated them. They believe it has taken something they can never recover. And so they resist it. They fight against it. They refuse to accept it. They spend their energy wishing it had never happened. But pain does not listen. It waits for you to stop running. It waits for you to stop pretending. It waits for you to stop asking why and start asking what now. Because pain is not there to destroy your life. It is there to destroy the illusions that kept you from seeing clearly. Before pain, you may have believed you had unlimited time. Pain reminds you that time is fragile. Before pain, you may have believed certain people would never leave. Pain reminds you that nothing outside you is guaranteed. Before pain, you may have believed you were in control. Pain reminds you that control was never as complete as you imagined. These realizations can feel cruel. They can feel unfair. They can feel like something has been taken from you. But what pain takes, it replaces with truth. And truth, though heavy, is clean. It does not deceive you. It does not comfort you with false promises. It gives you something far more valuable. It gives you awareness. You begin to see yourself without exaggeration. You begin to see your strengths without pride and your weaknesses without denial. You begin to see where you depended on external things to hold yourself together. And once you see these things, you are given a choice. You can continue to wish for the old illusions to return, or you can begin to build something real. Pain forces you into this decision. It removes the luxury of ignorance. It removes the comfort of pretending. It brings you face to face with yourself in a way nothing else can. There is a strange clarity that comes with suffering. You begin to notice how much of your life was spent worrying about things that never mattered. You begin to notice how much energy you wasted seeking approval, seeking validation, seeking comfort. You begin to notice how fragile those pursuits were, and you begin to change. Not because you want to, but because you cannot remain the same. Pain reshapes your priorities. It teaches you what is essential and what is meaningless. It teaches you what you can survive and what you can release. It teaches you how much strength exists inside you that you never had reason to discover before. Because strength that has never been tested is only potential. Pain turns potential into reality. It forces you to endure moments you believed you could never endure. It forces you to wake up on days when your spirit feels heavy. It forces you to continue when stopping would feel easier, and each time you continue, something inside you becomes quieter. Not weaker, quieter. The panic that once controlled you begins to lose its voice. The fear that once defined you begins to lose its authority. You begin to realize that pain, for all its weight, could not destroy you. It could wound you, it could humble you, it could change you, but it could not end you. And this realization changes the way you see everything. You stop fearing discomfort in the same way. You stop believing that hardship is something you cannot survive. You stop seeing yourself as fragile because you have seen yourself endure. There is a difference between believing you are strong and knowing it. Pain gives you that knowledge. It shows you that you can exist in moments you once thought impossible. It shows you that your mind can remain standing even when your world feels like it is collapsing. It shows you that you are more than the comfort you once depended on. Pain does not make you fearless, but it makes you familiar with fear. And familiarity removes its mystery. It removes its power to control you completely. You begin to understand that pain is temporary, but the strength it creates can remain. You begin to understand that avoiding pain does not protect you. It only delays your education, because pain will come. Whether invited or not, loss will come, failure will come, change will come. And when it does, it will ask you the same question it has asked every person who has ever lived. Will you let this break you? Or will you let this teach you? Pain does not decide the answer. You do, and in that decision, you begin to see pain differently. Not as an enemy standing in your way, but as a force standing in your path, waiting to show you who you are beneath everything you once relied on, waiting to show you what remains when comfort is gone, waiting to show you what cannot be taken from you, waiting to show you the difference between the person you believed yourself to be and the person you are capable of becoming. And once you see that, you can never return to the same illusions again. The world owes you nothing. This is the truth that many resist, not because it is false, but because it is unforgiving. From an early age, you were taught to expect fairness. You were taught that effort guarantees reward, that kindness guarantees respect, that patience guarantees peace. You were taught that if you followed the right path, life would respond with equal generosity, and so you believed it. You carried this belief quietly, like an agreement between yourself and existence itself. But life never signed that agreement. Life moves without obligation. It does not pause to recognize your sacrifices. It does not adjust itself to honor your intentions. It does not protect you from loss simply because you tried your best. It does not spare you from disappointment, simply because you deserve better. And when you first encounter this truth, it can feel like betrayal. You begin to ask questions that echo in the silence. Why did this happen? Why now? Why me? But these questions carry an assumption that was never promised. They assume you are owed protection. They assume you are owed certainty. They assume you were owed something at all. And when you begin to see that you were not, something inside you begins to shift, because expectation is a quiet dependency. It ties your peace to outcomes you cannot control. It ties your stability to forces that do not answer to you. It makes you fragile in ways you do not realize, until reality refuses to cooperate. You begin to understand how much of your suffering was not caused by events themselves, but by your belief that those events should have been different. You'll believe life should have been easier. You'll believed people should have been more loyal. You'll believed your efforts should have been recognized. But belief does not command reality. Reality remains indifferent. And in that indifference, you are given something powerful. You are given responsibility. When you accept that the world owes you nothing, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for fairness. You stop waiting for recognition. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for rescue. You begin to see that waiting was never a strategy. It was a form of surrender disguised as patience. You begin to see how much time was spent hoping instead of acting. How much energy was spent wishing instead of building. How much strength was wasted expecting instead of preparing? Because expectation creates hesitation. It convinces you that something external will complete what only you can begin. It convinces you that relief will arrive without effort. It convinces you that your life is shaped more by what happens to you than by what you choose. But once you release this expectation, you step into a different state of mind. You stop asking what the world will give you. You start asking what you will give yourself. You stop asking why things are difficult. You start asking how you will respond. You stop seeing yourself as someone waiting for opportunity. You start seeing yourself as someone who creates it. This shift is quiet, but it is irreversible. Because once you accept full responsibility for your existence, there is no one left to blame. Not your circumstances, not your past, not other people, not fate. Only your decisions remain. And this can feel heavy at first, because blame is comforting. Blame allows you to protect your pride. Blame allows you to avoid the discomfort of ownership. Blame allows you to remain the victim of your story instead of the author. But ownership changes everything. Ownership removes excuses. Ownership removes illusions. Ownership removes the distance between who you are and who you could be. You begin to see that your life is not waiting for permission to change. It is waiting for your decision. The world will not come to build your discipline. The world will not come to strengthen your mind. The world will not come to rescue you from your habits. It will continue moving, unchanged by your hesitation. And this realization can feel isolating. You realize that no one is coming. No one is coming to force you to grow. No one is coming to demand your potential. No one is coming to ensure you become who you are capable of becoming. That responsibility was always yours. It always will be. And in that realization, something awakens. Not fear, not anger, clarity. You begin to see how much power you surrendered by believing you were owed something. You begin to see how much control you gave away by waiting for fairness. You begin to see how expectation made you passive, because expectation places your life in the hands of chance. Responsibility places your life in your own hands. When you accept that the world owes you nothing, every achievement becomes earned. Every victory becomes real. Every step forward becomes yours, not because it was given, but because it was built. You stop measuring your life by what you receive. You start measuring it by what you endure. You stop defining yourself by outcomes. You start defining yourself by effort, because effort is always within your control. Outcome is not. This understanding frees you, not into comfort, but into strength. You no longer feel betrayed when life is difficult. You no longer feel shocked when things fall apart. You no longer feel entitled to ease, because you understand that difficulty was never a violation. It was always a possibility. And once you accept this, difficulty loses its ability to surprise you. It becomes something you face, not something you question. Something you move through, not something you resent. You begin to live differently. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop asking it to be gentle. You stop asking it to be fair. You accept it as it is. And in doing so, you become someone who cannot be controlled by disappointment. Because disappointment depends on expectation. And expectation no longer defines you. You act because action is yours. You endure because endurance is yours. You persist because persistence is yours. Not because you are promised reward, but because you no longer require it to continue. There is a certain independence in this state, a certain calm, not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger, stronger than your need for fairness, stronger than your need for guarantees, stronger than your need for reassurance. You begin to see that the world was never your enemy. It was never your provider. It was simply the environment in which you existed, indifferent, unpromising, unconcerned. And it was within this indifference that your strength was always meant to be formed. Not given, not granted, not owed, but created. Your mind becomes unbreakable the moment you stop negotiating with hardship. Until that moment, most of your suffering does not come from hardship itself, but from your resistance to it. You argue with reality as if it should listen. You plead with circumstances as if they should care. You tell yourself, this should not be happening. This is not fair. This is not the life you imagined. And in that silent argument, you exhaust yourself. Not because the hardship is too heavy, but because you are carrying both the hardship and your refusal to accept it. Negotiation is a form of delay. It is the mind's attempt to postpone the moment it must transform. It whispers that perhaps this pain can be avoided. Perhaps this discomfort can be softened. Perhaps this challenge can be escaped. It offers you hope, but not the kind that builds strength. It offers you the kind that keeps you waiting. You tell yourself you will act when you feel ready. You tell yourself you will endure when it becomes necessary. You tell yourself you will become stronger. When the time is right, does not wait for your readiness. It does not adjust itself to your preferences. It arrives as it is, and the longer you negotiate with it, the longer you remain fragile, because negotiation keeps in a state of hesitation that keeps you divided. One part of you sees the truth. Another part refuses to accept it. And in that division, your strength cannot fully form. You remain suspended between who you are and who you must become. There comes a moment, though, when negotiation becomes impossible, a moment when reality stands before you without compromise, a moment when you realize there is no alternative path, no easier option, no escape, only endurance. It is in that moment that something changes, not outside you, inside you. You stop asking why. You stop asking when it will end. You stop asking whether it is fair, because you understand that none of these questions will carry you forward. They will only keep you standing still. You begin to see hardship not as something to argue with, but as something to walk through. Not because you want to, but because you must. Acceptance does not mean you enjoy the pain. It means you stop wasting energy, wishing it were different. It means you stop resisting what already exists. It means you turn your full attention toward moving forward. This is where strength begins to concentrate, because your energy is no longer divided. It is no longer leaking into denial. It is no longer consumed by resistance. It becomes focused, directed, useful to you. Begin to act with clarity, not emotional clarity, but practical clarity. You do what must be done, even when you do not feel ready, even when you do not feel strong, even when you do not feel certain, because you understand that readiness is not a prerequisite for endurance. Endurance creates readiness. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for confidence. You stop waiting for the fear to disappear, because you realize These things may never arrive. And yet you continue. This is the moment. Your mind begins to harden. Not in bitterness, not in anger, but in stability. You begin to trust yourself in a new way, not because you believe hardship will stop, but because you believe you will continue. There is a quiet shift that happens when you stop negotiating. Hardship loses its ability to control your identity. It becomes an experience, not a definition. It becomes something you face, not something you become. Before this moment, hardship feels personal. It feels like an attack. It feels like evidence that you are weak. But after this moment, hardship becomes neutral. It becomes part of the path, part of the process, part of the cost of becoming someone stronger than you were before. You no longer measure yourself by how comfortable you feel. You measure yourself by how firmly you stand. You no longer measure your life by how easy it is. You measure it by how honestly you face it. Because comfort never required courage. Ease never required discipline. Only hardship asks these things of you. And when you stop negotiating, you begin to give your answer. Not with words, with action. You wake up when you would rather hide. You continue when you would rather stop. You endure when you would rather escape. And each time you do, you prove something to yourself. You prove that your feelings do not control your decisions. You prove that your circumstances do not control your identity. You prove that hardship does not control your future. It only tests your commitment to it. There is no sudden transformation, no instant invincibility. There is only repetition, the repeated decision to stand, the repeated decision to continue, the repeated decision to accept reality and move through it without argument. And with each repetition, the negotiation weakens, the hesitation fades, the resistance disappears. You begin to understand that hardship was never asking for your permission, it was asking for your response. And your response becomes simpler, not easier. Simpler. You stop asking how you feel. You ask what must be done. You stop asking whether it is fair. You ask whether you will continue. You stop asking whether you are capable. You prove that you are. Because capability is not something you discover in comfort. It is something you build in hardship. Something you assemble through endurance. Something you reinforce through action. There will still be pain. There will still be doubt. There will still be moments when the old voice returns. The voice that asks you to negotiate. The voice that asks you to wait. The voice that asks you to surrender. But its power fades. Because you have seen what happens when you refuse it. You have seen that you can survive without its permission. You have seen that you can move forward without its approval. And this knowledge changes you. You stop fearing hardship in the same way, not because it becomes pleasant, but because it becomes familiar. You recognize it. You understand its role. You understand that it is not there to destroy you, it is there to shape you, to remove what is unnecessary, to reveal what is essential, to show you the difference between a mind that negotiates and a mind that decides. And once your mind begins to decide, it becomes something harder to break. Not because it avoids hardship, but because it no longer argues with existence. It meets it, it walks into it, it moves through it, without asking it to be anything other than what it is.